Hello, my name is Amy Cutler, and I did my final paper on the English language learners and teaching the whole child. A little bit about myself. Listening to a person speak English with an accent is beyond intriguing to me. By knowing nothing else about this person, what I do know is that they have the ability to communicate with more of the world than I do. In examining the practices of the past and the existence of linguicism, it is also important to remember that in becoming Americans, all people have enriched the national language and culture. I've always had a passion for other cultures, and I have an adventurous side with the love for travel. My personal interest in education was piqued when I moved to Costa Rica and enrolled in school to become certified to teach English as a foreign language. While I was there, my students were between 11 and 63. Although this sparked an interest in me as far as teaching those who speak another language, I wanted more. This further pushed me into my first real teaching experience with young children on the island of Roatan, Honduras. My classroom there was filled with only 8 children of expat families. However, there were 5 different languages that were being spoken. Working with the younger children inspired me to make learning fun and enjoyable. After surviving some very dangerous situations in the year and a half that I lived there, I decided to come back to the U.S. and go to school for my master's in P3, where I also did teaching in a bilingual classroom in 3rd grade in Trenton. As a student myself, the classroom teacher instilled in me a passion of deeper interest in teaching the whole child, no matter what their background was. What is an ELL? The term English language learners refers to students who are not yet proficient in English and who require instructional support in order to fully access academic content in their classes. English language learners may be taught by teachers who specialize in teaching students that are not yet proficient. Many of these English language learners receive all or part of their instruction from teachers with certifications in ESOL, ESL, or have bilingual education. The first step to teaching reading and writing skills in a foreign or second language classroom is to address the mechanics of these 2 skills. And by mechanics, we mean letter recognition, basic rules of spelling, punctuation, capitalization, as well as recognition of whole sentences and paragraphs. These skills are not foreign to most speakers unless the students come from a first language with a completely different alphabet, one that might be made up of characters or symbols. Those who are learning English differ along a number of dimensions, including their country of origin, their immigration status and how long they've been in the United States, their home language, and the access to teachers who have the experience in preparation in the areas of bilingualism, biliteracy, and second language acquisition. Studies have been done that it takes approximately 6 to 8 years to be proficient in acquiring a second language. Language acquisition means learning a new language through using it and/or hearing it in a meaningful experience and having it available for future use in communicative contexts. Language acquisition is made up of 5 stages that include the silent, receptive, or pre-production phase, early production, speech emergence, intermediate language proficiency, and advanced language proficiency. It's very important to make a home connection. Involving families in the wider community in the educational process as a dual benefit for English language learners. First, it brings into the school the community and the parents of the children who otherwise might be left out due to linguistic or cultural barriers. Second, it allows for teachers and students to integrate cultural and family knowledge directly into the curriculum. High-quality family involvement requires educational leaders to build structures that respond to the needs of immigrant and non-English speaking families. This way, teachers will know how to access these resources. Each school district must make available the resources, such as translation and interpretation services, and teachers must be aware and know how to use them. It's important that educators working in multi-ethnic, multilinguistic classrooms know the importance of building the bridges between the students' experiences at home and at school. By using culturally responsive instructions that is relevant to these children's lives and changing the way they interact with students, teachers are able to enhance students' engagement, motivation, and participation in classroom instruction. It is important to me that any communications that are sent home, whether it is an invitation or a school announcement of any kind, are double-sided with English and Spanish because those are the languages spoken in my classroom. The classroom environment is also important. The ideal environment is challenging and intriguing to children, but not overstimulating. It should be rich in both tactile and visual experiences. A classroom layout could and should make the child's introduction to education a fun learning experience. A good first impression of the classroom, including the layout itself, could help a child develop a set of positive feelings and associations that will help carry them through a lifetime of learning. When it comes to selecting books to read to children, it's important to have them take a look at the books, hold the books, feel the books, and see what they're really getting and have it all in front of them so they know what they're being exposed to. When books are on the shelves or in bins for children to look at and use, they need to be rotated often so that children can be exposed to more books and more literature. This rotation can easily coincide with the changing of themes in the classroom, seasons of the year, or anything that may be pertinent to what is being taught at that time. There should also be a writing area in the classroom containing maybe a small table or a desk-like area that has trays for stacking papers, containers for writing utensils, any sort of books that might support their writing. This could be created as a children's writing workshop, giving them a space to practice their writing during a literacy workstation time, also offering the opportunity of one-on-one time with a teacher. The most powerful ways of incorporating students' language and culture is to give them the environment where they do in fact feel comfortable. The classroom climate directly influences how students perform in the classroom. It is a major variable which students' psychological needs are met during class time. Some dimensions of classroom climate include both community and risk-taking. These factors can impede or encourage student learning. It is the teacher's responsibility to encourage an inclusive classroom and one that is conducive to learning in which the student feels comfortable to take these risks. Teachers contribute to the strength of the climate and using verbal interactions with individual students, their means of handling conflict between students, and the use of cooperative activities are all extremely beneficial. The risk-taking element of the classroom climate has to do with the amount of confidence a student possesses. It is built on a person's beliefs about errors and what they mean, as well as the reaction of the student's peers. Students need to understand that making errors is part of the learning process, and they actually help us learn. Teachers should make this clear at the beginning of the class and reiterate it often to set the classroom norm for reacting to any sort of error. A big part of a positive classroom climate is setting up the social norms that promote respect for other people's ideas. Literacy in the classroom and the use of visuals. English language learners benefit incredibly from increased exposure to print and language. A print-rich environment should include access to books and reference materials, labels and posters, and student work on bulletin boards. Word walls are also extremely effective and a great support for ELLs, and may be organized around a number of concepts, including alphabet and phonetic sounds, or new vocabulary words, or new sight words, grammar rules, conversational phrases, and writing structures. The use of visual aids in the classroom are beyond helpful. They offer a different form of description and give the students information that they may not have otherwise understood if they were only exposed to the information in written or spoken form. Depending on their home language and their world exposure, a student may not understand any spoken English, but if they are provided with images, labels, graphs, etc., these can only be a benefit and help the students to identify and understand the information that is being presented to them. Using labels in the classroom is extremely important and beneficial. These should be created in both the home language and in English. This allows the child to make a connection between the words and the objects. By having the object labeled in their home language, this can also offer the teacher the opportunity to create a sense of belonging in the classroom by using words from the student's home language. These labels are all over some of our classrooms, and they help the child have a feeling of ownership within their own classroom. Labels, images, signs used in the classroom also provide opportunity to use printed language and enhance emergent literacy skills in ways that are real and meaningful in the student's experience. Reading is the best form of self-practice. It teaches and reinforces many of the skills used in listening and speaking. It facilitates automatic recognition skills, for example phrases such as, "Where are you from?" or "How are you?" Vocabulary and structural knowledge that can be viewed and analyzed at the pace of the reader as opposed to the pace of the speaker. Also, an understanding of how text is organized and how information is put together may be easier to understand and to follow. There are so many levels of reading, including phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. It is important to know and understand that English language learners may not understand instructions and key vocabulary words, and that reading something aloud may not always help comprehension. Teachers can further help students' comprehension by scaffolding language by providing visuals and other supports. Similar to reading, oral language proficiency has been conceptualized as developing across the continuum. Reading instruction can begin when students enter school, regardless of their English proficiency level. This instruction can occur in their native language, English, or both. Writing has many benefits for language learning. It is essential to recognize that for the purposes of learning and mastering language, the artistic aspects of writing are not exactly the most important. In reality, writing is the ultimate manipulative to allow a concrete representation of spoken communication. It allows students to think over the information and revise the ideas that are trying to be communicated. In this aspect, it is a very useful tool in teaching and practicing second language and helping children get better at their first language. A very beneficial process for ELLs is to write often and utilize their peers in the classroom as their audience. Students learn during the planning, revising, and editing of their writing, and giving feedback to one another, as well as using the feedback that they receive. English language learners learn a great deal just from reviewing another person's writing. Through this process, English language learners have many opportunities to write, learn new text structures and words, and become familiar with the mechanics of writing in English. It is also important, however, to teach students specific strategies and skills in order to help them improve their writing techniques and their English simultaneously.